The House of the Dragon TV show very closely follows George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood novel, but there are still tons of differences between the show and the book. Since there's not enough time in this video to go through every change that they've made, I've gone and found the 10 craziest differences between the House of the Dragon TV show and the book. There will obviously be spoilers, so don't watch this video if you're not fully caught up. Number 10. Larys Strong's murders. In the House of the Dragon TV series, Larys Strong is shown to be the one to instigate the Great Fire at Harrenhal that killed both Lord Lionel Strong, his father, and Sir Harwin Strong, his brother. He did so by setting 3 prisoners free, cutting out their tongues so they couldn't speak about what Larys told them to do, and having them set fire to his family's room at Harrenhal. In the book, however, the fire was blamed on the curse of Harrenhal, although maesters and historians suspected other culprits for the fire, including Prince Daemon Targaryen, Lord Corlys Velaryon, King Viserys Targaryen, and also Larys Strong. This change makes a significant impact on the story at large, changing everything we know about Larys and his willingness to do whatever it takes to climb his way up in Westerosi society, although it's not explicitly shown that he intended to have his family murdered. So the question arises, did Larys kill his father and brother? Number 9. Daemon's first wife. Daemon Targaryen's first wife and the heir to Runestone, Lady Rhea Royce, was shown to have been killed or helped to die by Daemon in House of the Dragon when she fell from her horse and Daemon finished her off with a rock. It was shown that he had come to Runestone to claim his place as the local lord, but in the book Fire and Blood, Lady Royce was already the ruling lady of Runestone, and Daemon was fighting in the Stepstones when she died. So instead of being killed by Daemon, it was written that she died when she fell from her horse while hunting in the Vale. He later flew to Runestone on his dragon Caraxes when he heard of her death to make his claim for the ruling seat at Runestone, which he was denied. The change in story to Daemon killing his wife, who he called the Bronze Bitch, really shows Daemon's character and his distaste for anyone not of Targaryen or Valyrian ancestry. Number 8. Fact versus fiction. One of the most significant differences between House of the Dragon and Fire and Blood is that the series is shown as an official account of the events leading up to the Dance of the Dragons, while the book is a collection of secondhand stories which may not be entirely factual. Author George R.R. Martin wrote Fire and Blood as an in-world history book by Archmaester Gildain, who wrote the book long after the events of the Dance of the Dragons. In this history book, Gildain uses several different sources to write the stories, including accounts from Septon Eustace, Grand Maester Muncan, and the court fool, Mushroom. So the team working on House of the Dragon have had to adapt the stories from somewhat biased sources, which a lot of the time each provides a differing account of what happened. Number 7. Aemond's Eye. House of the Dragon gave us an absolutely stunning scene where Aemond first bonded with the Titanic-sized dragon Vhagar. Afterward, we're shown a scene where Rhaenyra's son Lucerys cuts out Aemond's left eye, leading to Alicent calling for one of Lucerys' eyes in revenge, although Aemond says losing an eye was worth gaining a dragon. This scene differs in the book, however, as Baela and Rhaena Targaryen weren't present, Luke only cut out Aemond's eye after calling him and Jace Strongs, and it was actually his right eye that got cut out, not his left. Number 6. Laena's death. In House of the Dragon, we're shown Laena Velaryon in labor, and the maesters tell Aemond that they're unable to get the child to be born naturally. Laena, overhearing this, decides she does not want to die in childbirth and instead wants to die a dragon rider's death. So she walked out to her dragon Vhagar and commanded it to breathe fire on her, shouting Dracarys, and the dragon obliged, burning her alive. In Fire and Blood, however, Laena did give birth to a son, but he only survived for an hour. Laena's health soon began to deteriorate, and 3 days after the delivery, she left her bed to try to fly on Vhagar one last time, but collapsed and died on her way there. This retelling of Laena's death gives a much more powerful story for her character, showing her as a proud dragon rider with the blood of old Valyria pulsing through her veins. Quick plug, if you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. Now, back to the video. Number 5. Rhaenyra and Alicent. Most of the scenes early on in the show where Rhaenyra and Alicent spend time together as friends never really happened in the book. In fact, Rhaenyra and Alicent weren't ever true friends, as Alicent was 9 years older than Rhaenyra in Fire and Blood. In House of the Dragon, however, they're depicted as great childhood friends spending lots of time together in the Godswood, and the fact that they were close friends as children places even more tension on their relationship when Alicent marries Rhaenyra's father Viserys. In the book, though, they really don't even have a relationship until Alicent marries Viserys. Before then, they likely knew of each other, but hardly spoke to one another. I think this change from the book was really great, creating scenes with a lot more drama and higher stakes at hand. Number 4. Laenor's death. In the House of the Dragon series, we saw Rhaenyra and her husband Laenor Velaryon at a point in their sham marriage where Rhaenyra wanted to move on to unite herself with her uncle Daemon, gross, and Laenor wanted to run away from his problems with his lover Sir Carl Corey. The series shows us how Daemon offered Qarl and Laenor the opportunity to run away together across the narrow sea by staging a fight and faking Laenor's death. They do so as opposed to the book Fire and Blood, where Qarl actually kills Laenor for money, leaving Laenor's dragon Seasmoke riderless. This was likely done in the show because without Daemon giving Laenor the option to run away, he'd simply be seen as a bloodthirsty murderer doing whatever it takes to marry his niece, including paying someone to kill her husband. Number 3. Aegon's visions. One of the driving factors behind the first season of House of the Dragon was Viserys' insistence upon passing on the details of Aegon the Conqueror's vision of the end of times, where one Targaryen would have to unite all the realms of men to fight against a great winter and the darkness that comes with it, a vision he called a Song of Ice and Fire. But it was never actually mentioned in the book, and neither were any of the Targaryen dreams besides Daenys the Dreamer's vision about the doom of Valyria. It was Aegon's dream of the Great Winter that pushed him to conquer and unite the Seven Kingdoms, giving a much more in-depth backstory as to the reasoning for why Aegon was so relentless in his conquest. Although it was never fully mentioned in the book, it was George R.R. Martin's idea to include this plotline about visions, so he could still tie it in with the storylines in the books later on. Number 2. Vaemond's death. The 9th episode of House of the Dragon gave us the death of Lord Corlys Velaryon's brother, Vaemond Velaryon, when he was beheaded by Daemon Targaryen in the Red Keep. When Corlys was injured in a battle in the Stepstones, Vaemond made the claim that he was the true heir to Driftmark because Rhaenyra and Laenor's children were bastards. But he went a bit too far, calling Rhaenyra some expletive terms and dismissing her claim to the Iron Throne. So Viserys called for his tongue, and immediately Daemon instead cut his head in half, saying he could keep his tongue. In the book Fire and Blood, however, the events happened quite differently. Instead of being injured in battle, Lord Corlys Velaryon became sick, and the question of who might take his place on the Driftmark throne arose. Rhaenyra urged for her son Luke to be named as the heir to Driftmark, as her firstborn son Jace would be heir to the Iron Throne after her. Vaemond, still in Driftmark, stated that her children were bastards and had no claim to Driftmark. Outraged by this, Rhaenyra had her husband Daemon fly to Driftmark, where he beheaded Vaemond and brought the head back to Rhaenyra, which she fed to her dragon Syrax. While I do think it would have been cool to see Rhaenyra and Daemon use their dragons a bit more, feeding their enemies' heads to the beasts, I understand why this change was made, probably for budgetary reasons. Also, without this change, we wouldn't have gotten the amazing scene where the old and sickly Viserys arrives in the Red Keep like a bad to stand up for his daughter and grandsons. Number 1. Rhaenys in the Dragonpit. Episode 9 of House of the Dragon also gave us a really intense scene where Princess Rhaenys, the queen that never was, burst through the floor of the dragon pit on her dragon Meleys, killing hundreds of civilians in King's Landing, before she comes face to face with Queen Alicent and the newly crowned King Aegon II. She decides to fly away rather than burn them to a crisp, which would have stopped all the mounting tensions leading up to the impending civil war. But none of this happened in the book. Rhaenys didn't destroy the dragon pit floor, she didn't kill hundreds of innocent people, and she never had the chance to burn Alicent and her children in one fell swoop. In Fire and Blood, she was already back at Driftmark when Aegon was crowned as king. At this point in time, I think this might be one of the biggest and one of the most unnecessary changes made so far. I don't feel like it added much to Rhaenys' character because her actions are just so contradictory. On one hand, she's willing to kill hundreds of civilians to get her dragon, but on the other, she's not willing to kill the usurpers for the throne to put a stop to the civil war that will kill thousands. It just doesn't really make sense. I get that the writers wanted an epic conclusion leading up to the season finale, but it feels like this scene definitely could have been done differently. But I'd like to know what you think. Which changes do you like the most and the least? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Also check out the video on your screen for some more of my content. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching Rocket Riley.